What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. Wins and losses are two concepts that help make life what it is. You can't have one without the other. They're forever linked in a marriage of sorts. Not too many people understand this more than Meek Mill, who himself has had a very roller coaster like life, full of ups and downs, full of, struggle and triumph. Throughout his life and career, he's experienced a lot of wins. And at the same time, the losses, they never stop. Some make sense and others don't. Meek Mill's third album, titled Wins and Losses, is a reflection of just that. The highs of life, the lows of life, the struggles, the pain, losing people in your life over money, over death, and celebration of life. There's a lot on this album that Meek Mill talks about. Out of 17 songs, you're getting a lot of different ideas and concepts that all kind of work together to make this one album feel like it's supposed to be the way it is. And out of those 17 songs, I was able to pick two of my favorites that really stood out above everything else. The first is Connect the Dots, featuring Yo Gotti and Rick Ross. Putting these two on a record together is kind of like a trap cheat code, right? That up, down, left, right, R1, R2 type of stuff. And so this record, man, it was good. I think if Meek Mill is going to do concepts and themes and subject matters that he's done before, which he does throughout this entire album, I think this is like the blueprint. Connect the Dots is the type of record that you need to look at when you're trying to make something that just bangs, that knocks, that people want to listen to. It's a fun record, it's loud, and it's full of quotables. Yo Gotti starts out his verse by spitting, "Let's talk about the trap, let's talk about the streets. You looked up to Jordan, we looked up to Meech." And then Rick Ross, he comes through and just scorches it. I gotta say that I really chuckled at his mama ad-libs. Like, he's doing a couple lines about his mom, and in the background he's like, "Mama!" It's comical, but it's also glorious. It adds just a little bit of style to his verse. My other favorite is Price. This is the song that closes the album. Everything in life has a price, and Meek Mill understands that. I don't blame him for not being happier with money. Like, this record is a good example of why having more money doesn't necessarily make you a better person, a happier person, especially where Meek Mill comes from, in Philly, where there's a lot of people struggling. And so that the fact that Meek made it out means that he has to help others. He has to help with like bail money and funeral costs, and I get it. It's stuff that you feel like you have to do because these are people that you've known all your life, that you grew up with. But I know how it could take a burden on someone. In the intro, there's this very valid point that he has about how he can help people several times over. But the one time that he says no, those people will turn on him. Those people will talk trash about him. Those people will want him dead. But they forget that Meek Mill helped them out all these other times. And so I thought that was like a really true representation of not just Meek Mill's life, but life in general. I'm sure anybody watching has had a situation where you've helped someone several times, said no eventually, and then they just feel like, you turn their back on them. And they're just so bitter at you, you stop being friends even. So I get it. Like, the price of fame is just, sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. And I can see that it's a struggle for Meek Mill on this record. I love how he closes out the album, and this was the perfect way to do so. Now I have two honorable mentions I want to talk about real briefly. The first is the title track, Wins and Losses. It's the intro to the album. Do I really have to say more? You know Meek Mill and what he does with these intros. Anytime he has an intro, he makes sure he makes it monumental. He makes sure that it's memorable. He'll never make another Dreams and Nightmares, and he doesn't have to, nor should he try. But Wins and Losses as a title track is really good. It brings you in on the album. The other honorable mention is We Ball featuring Young Thug. This was a record that he teased on Instagram, on Snapchat for months on end. We even got part of like a music video for it with Meek's part. So we haven't really heard anything of Young Thug, and I was really surprised at how much depth was in Young Thug's verse. Like, he really fits the subject matter. It's not just him trying to sound cool. He's actually fitting in to what Meek Mill is talking about. However, not everything on the album is good, which brings me to my least favorite songs portion of the review. The first that I just couldn't get into at all is Fuck That Checkup featuring Lil Uzi Vert. The sequencing of the track list started to really bother me as I listened to the album over and over again. The first two songs are just great. They bring you in to Meek Mill's mind and his world. And then the third and fourth song, they kind of take you out of that. Fuck That Checkup. And then right after that is Whatever You Need. Whatever You Need isn't a bad record per se, which is why it's not on the list. But it's also not one that really fits where it's at on the track listing. But going back to Fuck That Checkup, I just feel like this is a disappointing record all around. It sounds something more for Lil Uzi Vert. Listening to this song is just like a yawn fest for me. Meek Mill uses one of the most overused rap lines in this generation. He says, "I'm on Perky's, she's on Molly's." I feel like every rapper, not every rapper, but every rapper that talks about drugs has used a line just like that. Just like that. Come on. I expect a lot more out of Meek Mill. With Lil Uzi Vert, well, I would expect this type of song from him. In fact, it almost feels like it could have been a Uzi song that he didn't finish, played for Meek Mill. Meek was like, "I want this." It could have been like that scenario. But it definitely fits Uzi more than it does Meek. My other least favorite part of the album isn't an entire song. It's rather one verse. Future's verse on These Scars. So, Meek Mill and Jordan Banks are a really great combination together. And I was willing to see how Future will fit into the equation on this record. And unfortunately, it's just not good. Future sounds like his flow is just all over the place. He doesn't really complement the beat. He just doesn't sound like he belongs. Even subject matter wise, like flows, like, okay, your flow's a little bit off, and then the subject matter doesn't really amount to like the title of These Scars, of the deep struggle that Meek Mill is talking about on this song. Future really doesn't emulate that. And so that's why I feel like get rid of Future's verse altogether. I would have loved to have a third Meek Mill verse or even an extended part from Jordan Banks. Wins and Losses was supposed to be a big moment for Meek Mill considering all that's happened in the last 2 years. It was supposed to be redemption, the album that puts him back on top. I don't feel like any of that happens when I listen to this album. In fact, I felt like Meek Mill is getting to a point where he's becoming stale with his subject matter. Yes, I know I'm aware of what I've said in like the last 2 EP reviews, but I think it's starting to catch up with Meek Mill. Like, you can only rap about the same subjects for so long and still make it sound good. Now, is Meek Mill completely stale? No. I like some songs on the album, but as a whole, Wins and Losses is a little disappointing for me. So those are my thoughts on Meek Mill's Wins and Losses. Let me know what you think about the album in the comment section below. Do you agree with what I've said in this review? Do you disagree? Let's have a discussion. Talk to me. And then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter @SermonsDomain. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching. And until next time, peace.